Romeo Pajcik finally testified today at the robbery assault trial of reputed mob boss John Gotti and his associate Frank Coletta. Gotti had been indicted for the September 1984 incident in Queens, in which he allegedly beat up Pajcik and robbed him of over $300 in a dispute over a parking space. Pajcik had identified Gotti as his assailant to the police and to the grand jury. But last Thursday, when the refrigeration mechanic was scheduled to testify against Gotti, he disappeared. He was later found by detectives at a Long Island hospital where he had undergone a shoulder operation. At that time, Pajcik said he no longer remembered who beat him up, but the DA's office held him as a material witness. Before taking the stand today, Pajcik was interviewed by his court-appointed attorney.
The only thing I can tell you is this: Mr. Pajcik is a 39-year-old man. He's the father of 3 children. He's a hard-working young man, and I have every reason to believe that he will do what the law requires him to do.
With his arm still in a sling from his shoulder operation, Pajcik was asked by prosecutor Kirk Bartley if the men who beat him up were in the courtroom. Pajcik replied no. Despite that testimony, the Queens DA's office is expected to pursue the case and bring forth as witnesses the police officers Pajcik told his original story to. Officials say Pajcik changed his story after learning that Gotti is the reputed head of the Gambino organized crime family. In Queens, this is Vince Lipari, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
Look at him, straight in his fucking eyes.
They weren't Gotti though. Gotti was. How about you just briefcase? Yeah. These are the good guys. Yellow stuff.
Oh, I'm gonna need 100 of them.
One guy that does these
Excuse us, please. A little bit. Excuse us, please.
I don't know, but from now on, I shoot everyone.
Yeah.
I don't think
Got a good shot now.
Come on.
Well,
Back up a little bit. I'll try to do that.
Yeah. That's the second time that she's been around the park that I noticed.
Oh, yeah, he's a lawyer. Where's your famous client?
it's alive. It's alive.
Probably in the courthouse.
Oh, it's alive. Take the picture for me. Father, make a picture for me. Oh, good. Make a ABC, make a picture for me.
You're nothing, sorry.
Make us feel good, huh?
Wait, my cousin.
Oh, they're outside already. Hey, which way are you? I don't know.
I'll send you.
I don't know. You get out the way. I have no idea.
No, what's right? Here's the guy. This is him.
I know.
pause for a minute, everything will be all right.
Yeah, we're all right.
Talk about all the publicity that... Left. Slow down. Slow down, John. Between these cars, John.
Where you going?
Well, it's the guy in the white turtleneck. Yeah, the guy covering up. And the guy in a blue silk suit. John, over here.
John, right.
John, right. Let's get the... That guy here.
Blue Street. You gotta get it.
BDS.
Did he?
Black
BDS?
BDS.
What was the Black Fleetwood?
Yeah, it's a black.
Come the attorneys.
Slotnick is leaving now.
They're going to leave with him.
Where was the car? Was it a double car?
It was right in that Jerry.
Was it in front of the highway?
I'll talk to you during the week.
Here, as far as the government pushed to coronate him.
Well, someone said that the FBI got together and made an election. So I guess the New York Times reported the results of their election. I really have no understanding of what that article really meant.
Well,
think
who
the
do
FBI
you
would say
feel
that?
makes mob bosses these days? Do you think the mob makes them? Do you think the Bureau makes them? Or do you think the press makes them?
I think the gentlemen that I'm looking at the present moment, and ladies that I'm looking at the present moment, have a lot to do with shaping the news and indicating who's who and what's what.
Do you think there'll be motions to dismiss based on publicity?
There certainly are motions that are going to be made with regard to prejudicial publicity.
Do you think the publicity will affect the outcome of the trial if there is a trial?
Obviously, the publicity is something that would certainly hurt the defendants in this case.
Have you moved for dismissal, or the other attorneys moved for dismissal?
I've moved for dismissal.
Hey, Rich, you're out whenever you want
What
to be
about the
out.
other attorneys? What have they done?
At the present moment, those motions will be made in the near future.
Haven't you made a
Regarding what?
motion to dismiss already that was rejected? Okay, John.
No, my motion to dismiss was granted as a result of the death of my client.
The previous one that Judge Nickerson ruled on, he refused the...
Not on prejudicial publicity, no.
Can you tell us about what the other are asking to do?
There will be motions made addressed to all of this terrible prejudicial publicity that's being applied upon the public.
You think it's prejudicial by who?
I think it's prejudicial as against the defendants. If you read the newspapers and watch your television reports tonight and right now, you'll find that these defendants will not be cast in the best light.
The reports that Gotti is now the chief of the Gambino family, you think are inaccurate?
I think all of those reports are things that I can't comment upon because I just don't know about it. Certainly, I spoke to Mr. Gotti. He's not aware of being elected to any chiefdom. Thank you.
Thank you very much. John Gotti's lawyer.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Cutler, there's been a tremendous amount of pretrial publicity on this case,
Yes,
especially on Mr. Gotti, your client. What's been your reaction to it?
Well, it's been devastating, and we're concerned about it, and we'll be making a motion for a continuance so that he can get a fair trial. And I think he can't get a fair trial at this point, but sometime in the future, perhaps he can, well down the road, not at this point.
There have been specific accounts of him being elected the new boss of the Gambino family following the assassination of Bellotti and Castellano.
Yes. I read about it. I don't know anything about it, and neither does my client, so that's all I could say about that.
Why do you think down the road your client might have a fairer trial than now?
Well, I think maybe the publicity will subside, hopefully. I'm being optimistic. I appreciate what you folks do for a living, but I'm hopeful that in time it will subside, and once it subsides, we'll be able to get a fair trial in the Eastern District, I hope.
What has been your client's reaction to all the publicity so far?
What has been his...
What has he said about all the news accounts?
Well, he's concerned about it too, affecting the trial, that's all. Other than the fact that it invades his privacy naturally, he's concerned about it affecting the trial. But I'm optimistic that in time, once the publicity dies down, we can get a fair trial, I hope.
Is that what your motion will be?
That's what it's going to be, that's right.
When does that go in, that motion?
We'll make that in, I guess, next week or so.
Before the February 3rd hearing?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Your next hearing date is February 3rd?
That's the date for the hearing. The trial date was put down for April 7th. of '86.
What did he say when he saw that New York Times article?
What did my client say?
Yeah.
I didn't speak to him about it, so other than, you know, not making any comments regarding this kind of publicity, he had really nothing else to say, other than the fact, again, that it's an invasion of his privacy, and it makes his life basically an open book, and it's a problematic situation. It's going to affect the trial. If the trial goes in April, it will affect the trial. Down the road, I'm hopeful that we'll get a fair trial.
Mr. Cutler, the details, this is the last question, details on the stories have indicated electronic surveillance, physical surveillance, informers, and so on. What has been your client's reaction to any of this?
Well, again, I can't comment on that.
But is he aware that is he being tailed?
And the reason that I can't comment on that is that we have a case pending, an open indictment, and to give you his indications would basically jeopardize his Fifth Amendment rights, and I don't want to comment on that at this point.
Has he had to change his coming and going because of the notoriety?
Again, I don't want to comment on that, but the answer to that is obvious. I mean, his privacy has been invaded, and we're hopeful and optimistic that the publicity will die down and he can come back to being a private, normal citizen again.
When would you shoot? When would be a reasonable trial date?
I don't know. I really don't know. Depends what happens with you folks. Okay. Thank you.
For your time.
Each day now, attorneys walk into court ready for the full weight of this case to fall on the shoulders of the defendants, but the evidence builds slowly here. Today, the first videotapes were played for the jury, cloudy black and white surveillance pictures of John Gotti greeting other alleged Gambino crime family members in front of the Ravenite Social Club in Lower Manhattan. On June 4, 1990 at 7:24 p.m., Gotti and underboss, now turned informant Sammy the Bull Gravano go for what's called a walk-talk, followed by Gotti bodyguards Iggy Alana and Bobby Borriella, the late Bobby Borriella. Same day, 8:06 p.m., Gotti appears to lecture brother and reputed capo Peter Gotti, and so it went on the tapes as reputed mobsters came and went from the Ravenite. In the courtroom, as the tapes were played, Gotti rarely looked at the screen and seemed disinterested. Some of those on the tape, though, are his crew of supporters in the courtroom, including his brother Peter. Defense Attorney Krieger, you don't know what anybody was talking about on any of those videotapes, do you? FBI agent George Gabriel, no sir. And implying the video is more dramatic without sound and that it was omitted purposely, Krieger said, on the sidewalk no one was restricted from walking there, were they? Answer, no sir. Question, none of those people in front of the club or behind Mr. Gotti were telling people, away, away, Mr. Gotti is having a private conversation, were they? Answer, no sir.
"45-year-old John Gotti is a smart guy, according to the federal prosecutors who are pursuing him in the courts. Smart, but he plays rough. Gotti's house in Howard Beach, Queens is a modest affair compared to the palatial mansion Paul Castellano owned on Staten Island. But when police needed to talk with the elderly Castellano, they could usually find him. John Gotti is more difficult to pin down. State organized crime officials possibly have him under surveillance tonight in the New York area, but police say they haven't talked with Gotti yet about Monday night's shooting death of Castellano. One operating theory is that the Gotti faction of the Gambino family moved on Castellano because of Big Paul's deepening legal troubles with U.S. Attorney Rudolph Giuliani. Giuliani is reticent to discuss the Gotti connection.
There are no allegations that I know of. The best way, I think, to describe all of this is that so far, nothing has moved from the category of speculation.
Gotti himself has legal trouble with U.S. Attorney Ray Deary's office in Brooklyn. He's under indictment with 9 others for planning contract killings and armored car robberies. Former Gambino family underboss Ionello Della Croce is also named, but he died last month of natural causes. Before the deaths of underboss Della Croce and godfather Castellano, John Gotti was a capo, captain, or crew chief for the Gambino crime family. One of his crew members, 26-year-old Andrew Curro, has pled guilty to participating in one of those 1980 armored car robberies. He was also convicted of killing his girlfriend to keep her from ratting on him about his role in that crime. He will be sentenced next month here in Brooklyn in state criminal court. Federal sources say John Gotti started in crime as a truck hijacker years ago, did jail time, then got into loan sharking and gambling when he got out. Now they say he hires others like Andrew Curro to do the dirty work for him. John Gotti, a man on his way up, if the feds don't stop him.
I was going to use him time. I know a little bit about the case.
Okay.
If you want to ask about it.
Yeah, I think I will
throw
throw some questions.
When I don't know, I'll say I don't know.
Yeah, that's good enough. This is an answer, too.
Right.
A rare one, unfortunately, as you know. You ready to go in, Elliot? Okay. Jerry, put this Gotti prosecution in context for me. This is the end of a long chain.
Yes, well, it's the fourth in the last 6 years, but I think by far that this is the most devastating case that the government has been able to bring against John